A new Chinese source has more info on the Switch 2, including size, specs, comparison to Switch 1, and potentially a new reveal date. Plus, we've got more concrete details on the Palworld lawsuit and exactly what they're suing for, which I find fascinating and it's changed my mind, as well as new details on the Pokemon TCG mobile app. So good morning, Mario, and good morning, Switch fans. Hope you're all doing fan-freaking-tastic out there, getting ready for your weekend. I'm getting ready to go see my Lions play the Arizona Cardinals, which I'm pumped for, but I'm also pumped to talk about the Switch 2 because we just can't escape it. Impossible. Also, Piro was teasing real things, but they were Sega things, so we'll kind of skip over that. Just know that his Pira tweets, they actually referred to two games that were revealed today, so he's back on the good side of the equation. I'm not so sure. Speaking of equations, the Pokemon TCG app, is that going to make a ton of money or not? They revealed a new video that highlights the gameplay and how this is a much more casual way to explore the Pokemon TCG. The battles are simplified to be shorter, the card collecting is made easier, you get 2 packs per day, but they don't go into the monetization. They don't go to how you can buy more packs, how much they're going to cost, how that all works. You can get an extra card from friends opening packs. Don't really go into if trading's possible, although I feel like it's got to be. And I'm curious if this is going to actually be something that really tugs on the hearts of the mainstream. Are they going to be able to really get out there and spread this app like they did with Pokemon Go, or is it going to be more niche? I think it's a more casual version of the Pokemon card game, which, is a very popular card game with a lot of, appeal. Does a more casual version dumb it down to a point where it's really accessible and really fun to play in short mobile bursts? Or does a more casual version make it just blah and not really interesting? Because frankly, opening 2 free packs a day and having a collection of cards on my phone doesn't sound all that great if the game itself isn't fun. What am I using these cards for? It's not like I'm printing the cards. It's not like I really care about having a digital collection. The game's got to be good. In the same way that I love Marvel Snap for the game being good, it wouldn't matter if I had a bunch of Marvel characters on digital cardboard if I didn't have a great game to play with all of those pieces. And thankfully, in Marvel Snap's case, I put thousands of hours into that game. Can this TCG app come close? I don't really know. It does kind of raise some alarm bells in my head that they are so just really hammering home the point that this is a casual experience. We'll have to wait and see. We don't have to wait and see about what Pokemon and Nintendo are suing Palworld as it's come into more focus. We've got analysts saying that Nintendo has built a very good case, and it does seem like they're going to win this thing. Although I've read that it could take up to 5 years, so we might not find out the answer for a long time. It looks like they are not suing about copyright, but rather suing about a patent. And it seems like there is a Pokeball throwing patent that they filed this summer. Nintendo and the Pokemon Company jointly filed. And it seems like this patent was given an accelerated review process, and that might be the center of the legal action. The patent describes how a character catches a Pokemon by aiming and throwing a capture item, like a Pokeball, at a creature. Upon successful capture, the creature then becomes owned by the player. Now, Palworld gameplay is very different. I discussed that. The creative nuances of if a character is too similar to another character, that's very dicey in my opinion, but it is very true that Palworld does have players catching pals by aiming and throwing a capture item named a Pal Sphere at a creature, and then upon successful capture, the creature then becomes owned by the player. If that is what we are looking at, if that is what we are examining, it does seem like it's kind of just straight up ripping that. Now, I don't know exactly how this works because it seems like they filed this patent this summer, so that's post Palworld, but maybe because their games came out way before they're able to establish the rights to it. This all is taking place in Japan, so really any knowledge anybody has about the US legal system or the European legal system or anything of that sort doesn't matter. It's all about how this is viewed in Japan, and I know nothing about patent law over there, but it is interesting to get the clarity that they're not going after the characters, they're not going after the game itself, they're going after this specific idea, I guess a specific mechanic of a Pokeball. The Pokeball throwing being how you capture these characters. So we'll see if they've got ground to stand on. Like I said, experts seem to think they really do, and that Nintendo is going to win this when all is said and done. But it could take years, so we won't end up knowing until well into the Switch 2 life cycle, and maybe at that point, Palworld 2 will be out. So we'll have to wait and see. Now, this is what I'm excited about today. Lao Ren, a YouTuber and content creator from China, has 3D printed a Switch, which initially I was like, okay, whatever, they 3D printed it. But they've got additional details, and they say that they've had the 3D plans for this console well before the leaks happened just a few days ago. Now, this is very interesting because this would mean that they've got some sort of connection, some sort of insider access to whoever did end up leaking those images. Now, we can debate ad nauseum whether the images are real or not, but for today, let's just say that they are real and go ahead with looking at this, because it's fascinating to see this new Switch 2 prototype versus the Switch 1, versus the Steam Deck, versus the PlayStation Portal, and most importantly, versus the Switch OLED. Holy freaking crap, this is a big Switch. The OLED is like a pretty big system. Like, the OLED to me is pretty big. Look, this is an OLED. That's pretty big. And look how much bigger the Switch 2 is compared to this. It is gargantuan. It really is looking like Steam Deck sizing. And even if you compare to the OG Steam Deck, like, I think we found a better form factor. I don't know. I'm loving what this Switch 2 is looking like because it's got a bigger screen with a smaller overall footprint. It looks like maybe it's comfy. There's more rounded edges, which I think is better for your hands. It's got more spacing, obviously, between the Joy-Con. There's more tallness to the Joy-Con. I don't know if there's more depth to the Joy-Con, which is, I think, one of the biggest issues. But this is looking nice. Like, this is looking really good. I feel like the width of the PlayStation Portal is perfect for my hands. Although my favorite part about the PlayStation Portal is, like, you're actually holding a DualSense controller in your hands, even though it's split by a screen. That's going to be really, like, the touch and go kind of determiner if the Switch 2 is comfortable. But right now, like, this looks great to me. This looks like a humongous step up from the OLED, and I can't believe how much bigger it looks. Like, that screen looks huge. That screen looks ginormous. Just going up, like, a little over 1.5 inches is a pretty big deal. It's got a gnarly big screen, and I'm really, really here for it. But it's not just the screen. I want to definitely know what you guys think about this size comparison. If you feel like the Switch 2 is going to be huge, but again, like, compared to the Steam Deck, it's actually smaller footprint-wise, so I think this might be perfect. Anyways, the Chinese YouTuber also says that they know about the specs. They say that it does have 2 USB-C connectors. They're not really sure what the top one is used for. There's a top and bottom USB-C connector, which is something we noticed in the leak earlier this week. They say that it does have 12 gigs of RAM, which was also in the specs leak. They say it's got 256 gigs of storage, which is substantial, I think, because the Nintendo Switch is a 32 gig storage system. So we are what is that, like 2, 4, 8 times multiplying the storage? It was pretty swanky if you ask me. I like that a lot. Pretty darn good to go up that much, and shows Nintendo is really not only caring about the player, but also going to be upping the ante in terms of the game size in the next generation. They say DLSS will be responsible for 4K rendering, and then the part that you probably want to know about most, they say that the presentation of the new console is happening in October. Now, is this just reactive to the fact that it hasn't happened yet in September, or is this reflective of information that they're privy to and we and other leakers and insiders are not? Remember, there was some dilemma and debate over whether this would be revealed in late September or early October. And maybe early October is actually the move. It seemed like it was a bad move given the presence of TGS at the end of September. And you'd think like, okay, people want to talk about it there. But if Nintendo says don't talk about it, you don't talk about it. If Nintendo's briefed you and doesn't want you to spill, you don't spill for fear of getting Nintendo Ninja'd. So maybe TGS don't matter all that much in the grand scheme of things, and maybe Nintendo's plans ultimately are most important, and frankly, they are. I think Nintendo operates how they want to operate regardless of Jeff Keighley or Tokyo Game Show or a PlayStation State of Play next week. Like, they'll do what they're going to do. If their plan is to reveal it on next week, then it'll be next week. If their plan is to reveal it early October, it'll be early October. This now is pointing us towards October, but I urge you to take that with a grain of salt because it's very hard to know if this is reactive information and just going on the next plausible date, or if this is actually like new information or very, heavily guarded true information. I feel like until we see more movement, it's impossible to know when the Switch 2 will be revealed. It could happen at any moment. Literally, that's how I'm kind of playing this game. It's like, hey, it could be tonight. It could be next week. Even though Zelda's next week and that seems weird, Nintendo might not care. Even though TGS is in a week and a half, Nintendo might not care. Even though October seems pretty close to the holiday season, Nintendo might not care, and they've done the same with the Switch 1. So if they're following the Switch 1 playbook, then October could work out. At the same time, maybe it's saved for 2025. I really don't know at this point, but I find this comparison, this 3D printing, really awesome. I thought it would just be boring, like, okay, whatever, they 3D printed from this 3D image. No, like, this is telling me the Switch 2 might actually be the sweetest system ever made. I don't know, something about this form factor, the bigger buttons, the bigger sticks, the more rounded edges, that screen that is just swallowing me like Monstro from Pinocchio. This is looking freaking amazing. I'm loving this already, and we don't even have anything really to go off of except like these images and these potential leaks. But like, if this is what they're doing, I don't think you need a gimmick. I am hyped. I am in. Give me an 8-inch screen. Give me a better Steam Deck with DLSS, 4K, 256 gigs of storage, 12 gigs of RAM, and every Nintendo exclusive that you can't play anywhere else. Let me know what you think of these comparison photos, how you're feeling about the Switch 2 size, if this is to be true, and are you ready for October one way or another. In the meantime, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, stay positive out there. Love you lots. SwitchForce out.